Through a small telescope, a small region of the sky shows us about 2 million stars. On average, it is estimated that there are about 100 sextillion stars. That is 10 raised to power 22. There may be even more out there. If we say that the conditions for life are around 1 in 10,000 stars, we have 10 raised to power 18 stars. If 1 in 10,000 of these have an atmosphere suitable for life, we get 10 raised to power 14. And if 1 in 1,000 of these have produced life, we have 10 billion. Take 1 in 10,000 of these as planets that have developed some form of intelligent life, and we get 1 million planets. We could keep reducing the probability of existence of intelligent life out there, and still reach 200. One of the basic assumptions of this theory is the assumption that extraterrestrial life is a reality, and this is reiterated in evidence being presented again and again here. Now, we constantly make the mistake of assuming that life must exist, develop, and flourish in conditions exactly like ours. Yet on this planet of ours, we have anaerobic bacteria. These live in environments that possess no oxygen. Germs have also been found in the lethal water that surrounds a nuclear reactor. Experiments that recreated the conditions of Jupiter were also seen to have supported life. Some bacteria live in volcanoes, some eat stones, and some produce iron. The point being made here is that life can exist in any condition. An alien civilization out there might consider their conditions to be the ideal one for sustaining life. Jules Verne described a trip around the world in 80 days. Nowadays, it takes 90 minutes for an astronaut to do that. In those days, his ideas were considered to be pure science fiction. Yet, not only have we proven that false, we've outdone it. Ideas of today may be scoffed, yet some of them do eventually become a reality. This is one of the unfortunate tendencies we seem to maintain in all times. Sooner or later, man will have conquered space, and we will have conquered Mars, then the solar system, and perhaps distant stars. Now, let us assume that a spaceship leaves Earth to another planet. If the ship were traveling fast enough, then time would slow down for the crew. 10 years would pass on the ship, whereas 100 may have gone by back home on Earth. The ship lands on a planet, inhabited by a population of creatures in the state of development that Earth was 8,000 years ago. What do the primitives think of these strange visitors coming in large, roaring ships? They close their eyes and face the ground, fearing these gods. The gods have come to visit them. The crew would study these inhabitants, pick up their language, and would be able to communicate with them. Priests from the tribe would approach them to pay homage and offer gifts. No amount of explanation would deter any of the primitives from the notion that these are gods. Our crew would also teach the primitives some of the basic values of civilization. Interbreeding among them, perhaps by choosing women, would lead to a generation that's actually a few generations ahead in intelligence and abilities. The crew would eventually leave, perhaps with a promise of return. Back on that planet, the saga would continue. They will write stories, erect statues, drawings, temples, shifting focus back to our own planet now. Generally, when a certain point of mystery in our past is raised or questions regarding the history of something, the scholars will tell us what happened in so-and-so way, and that will get accepted without much thinking on our part. But there are some things on this planet that are simply too weird for an explanation and are hence not addressed by these scholars. Here is a small list below. You may do a search to read more on it. Piri Reis maps found in Topkapi Palace. This was found in the possession of a Turkish Navy admiral. It was a map of the world showing even North and South America and even Antarctica if the ice caps were to be removed. However, the map was seemingly distorted. A startling discovery showed that projecting the map onto a sphere would produce an exact view of how the world would appear if it were seen from a certain distance in space. How did our ancestors get a hold of this? Straight geometrical lines, some intersect and form trapezoids in Nazca, Peru, and they're not even roads because they end abruptly. Tiahuanaco is a city teeming with mysteries. Here, archaeologists found an accurate calendar that gave the equinoxes, astronomical seasons, and the positions of the moon at every hour. This is from 27,000 years ago. Also at Tiahuanaco, one can find huge sandstone blocks with accurate stonework on it in seemingly impossible ways. There's also a great idol at the old temple, and the Gate of the Sun shows flying gods on it. Tiahuanaco also holds a legend of flying ships from the stars. When evidence such as the ones mentioned above are brought into light, they are usually dismissed. Either the ancient civilizations were extremely advanced and we've lost all their technology, or they had active imaginations. Yet, the existence of these cannot be denied. Just about every culture somewhere or the other presents us with the same cave drawings, the same legends, the same flying gods. Why? If it is indeed all lies, how did all of them come up with the same harebrained idea? Is God an astronaut? The Bible is a book full of contradictions. Go to a library or search online for the following passages. Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. Who is our? Why is God talking like a group? Genesis chapter 6 verse 1 to 2. Who are the sons of God? Genesis chapter 6 verse 4. This describes mighty men known as the sons of God who mated with humans. Just about all the ancient books describe these giants. Keep in mind that if aliens had come from a planet with lower gravity, they would be extremely tall and sport large chests, similar to the giants. Genesis chapter 19 verse 1 to 28 describes or relates some sort of a catastrophe countdown, wherein the angels of God tell the prophet Lot to hurry and get out of the city into the mountains and not to look at the explosion. Why the rush? Why a countdown? In the Old Testament, Ezekiel describes in detail a visit by these gods and refers to fire from the vehicle and gives a description of what we would see as an all-terrain vehicle. Apparently, Ezekiel was so impressed by these that he kept describing the ship and vehicle over and over again. Exodus 15 verse 10 and Exodus 25 verse 40, Noah was given the exact instructions and measurements for building the ark down to the inch. Also, it was described to be electrically charged because things like sparks and flashes were said to be there. Was that perhaps a means of communication with the god? The flood epic isn't confined to the pages of the Bible, it exists in just about every culture. You can read a few of these flood myth stories here. How did all of them come up with the same flood story? Why? Was it perhaps that the aliens were attempting to breed an intelligent race of humans and were attempting to destroy the experiments that they weren't satisfied with? The past is so full of absurdities that instead of seeking an explanation, we choose to ignore them and often call our ancestors crazy and superstitious. However, everything has a truth to it. The beliefs and practices we uphold today will be laughed at in the not-so-distant future. Yet there's still a reason for what we do. Humans have existed on Earth for about 1 million years, yet we reached such peaks of advancement in a fraction of this time, in just 7,000 years, and cultures around the world have all recorded visits of gods from the unknown. What really happened? A plausible explanation that comes up goes like this. This planet was discovered by some intergalactic travelers around 5,000 years ago. They chose to mix and breed an intelligent race on the planet and gave us technology, knowledge and genes in our gene pool. Thus, we started advancing at an accelerated pace, simultaneously worshipping these gods. They promised to return and left. What may have been a short span of time for them was probably thousands of years for us, in which we continued our advancement and carried on the worshipping. The gods did eventually return, perhaps to observe us. Each time they returned, they would help out a bit, a little more knowledge, a little more of civilization, which would explain the extraordinary feats of building the pyramids, monoliths, etc. And then, once again, the gods would leave with a promise of return. This promise got converted into things like Day of Judgment, Day of Reckoning, or End of the World. Perhaps the relics at Easter Island were built in preparation for the return of the gods, but the gods never came, and so, it was abandoned. Perhaps the Aztecs had suddenly abandoned their city so suddenly because the year of arrival had come and gone without a visit from them. Perhaps the city of Lot was an experiment gone wrong and was being destroyed. Perhaps the aliens didn't like the progress of the human race and decided to start anew by flooding everything out. And now we wait the return of our gods. The UFO sightings and alien abductions of today are probably them checking in on us. Ever notice when we refer to God, we point up towards the sky? It's time that we started concentrating on our future, so that we may shed light on our past. Let the truth come out. Is God an alien? What do you think? Drop your comment and subscribe for more videos like this.